Hello, Jambo Kumela. How are you doing? And Karibu to the Sitdown with Standups. My name is Eric Lusavali, and this is a very special episode for us because on this particular stage, we have some of the greatest comedic performers in the world. This is the Sitdown with Standups, and on this particular episode that we have not named, we are sitting down with people from across the world. We are sitting with Mr. Evans Bukuku, all the way from Tanzania. We are sitting with Mr. Lara, all the way from Brooklyn, actually Queens, New York City, yeah? We are sitting next to Mr. Ndumiso Lindi, all the way from just down the street, actually all the way from South Africa, but most left to me, we are sitting with Mr. Deo Gratius, who was actually our very first guest on the Sit Down with Standups. Karibu, welcome from wherever you're watching, listening, or eavesdropping from. We want to start this the right way. Gentlemen, we are here for one reason and one reason only. Free food. And booze. No, we are here because we are actually just about to start sound check for the second installment of Distant Relatives. Now, on this stage, we do have someone who was in the inaugural class for Distant Relatives, Mr. Ndumiso Lindi. And for those of you who do not know what Distant Relatives is the annual, let's say, convention of great comedic minds in Nairobi for a performance like none other. This year, we have invited more friends from near and far. And I think I don't even know where to start because this is very exciting. I want to start by letting you guys introduce yourselves because I don't think I've done justice to you guys. So I want to start on my left with Deo.
You heard the name, Deo, but that's not how we say it. It's Deo Gratius, all the way from Tanzania. Imekaa kama Kiingereza kinakuja hivi, eh? Yes, we can speak English. Yes.
Allegedly. Next to him is a brother, a friend, and a compatriot, comrade, gardener by day, comedian by night. Sir, please.
Yeah, my name is Ndumiso Lindi. They call me the Rooster, and all the way from South Africa. And namdenza ndio hlekisa ngoba naye uthetha ngelanguage yakhe nami uzothetha ngelanguage yami, but we can speak English too.
Yes. Translation, he said he spoke his language, I can speak my language, but he can also speak English. Then right next to me is someone that we've been talking to for a very long time. We started having this chat last year about him visiting the motherland. It's always amazing whenever we have people who've never been on the soil but are sons of the soil visit. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Ian Lara. I'm a comedian from New York City. I was born and raised over there in the States, and we don't really speak English that well.
Okay, yeah, that's very true. That's very true. And last but not least, this guy is a brother to me. This guy is the founder of an amazing stand-up comedy club in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Please, sir.
Thank you very much, Eric. So my name is Evans Bukuku. I'm one of the founders of Punchline Africa. I was based in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Thank you for the invite. It's an amazing set of events we're doing. We started it off, I started in comedy a couple of years ago. I met Dale through a competition, amazingly enough, many years ago, and here we are together. It's an amazing thing, and I really look forward to Distant Relatives too. Which is good because really in Africa, you don't really look forward to seeing distant relatives.
Yes.
Yeah. it's a great contrast. I like that. But
because they never leave. They never leave whenever relatives come in.
There's food and booze.
Yes. Yes.
Why?
Here's the thing. Whenever my distant relatives call me, I just pretend I'm broke. It's like, I'm so glad you called me. Do you have 200 shillings I can borrow? They're like, click. So that's how you deal with that. You guys may not be able to see this, but we have an auditorium quarter way full of actually stand-up comedians who are working extremely hard to make sure that Distant Relatives is a success. But before that, we have amazing partners for Distant Relatives. Last year when we did Distant Relatives, we actually had to do everything by ourselves. But this year we've had amazing people join hands with us. So I want to thank the following people. I want to thank Trademark Hotel, and in particular Shamim and Eva Mwangi. comedy who are down there who've come together, and those are accommodation partners. I also want to thank and basically pay respects to a very close friend of comedy and a close friend of mine, Mr. Rahim of Twiga Travels. Ian got to go to the Mara for a couple of days. All of these guys were out at the Nairobi National Park yesterday. We tried to leave them there, but they found their way back to the hotel. We also have Mama Rocks, who are an amazing distribution partner for us, and also the people who host our monthly room. And then we have Brioche, who are also a distribution partner for us. And last but not least, we have Mama Rocks, who are amazing in their own way. And I actually mentioned that, but then we have In Networks, a gentleman known as Nick Jackson, and his team have been instrumental in making sure this interactive happens. Thank you very much, everyone who's listening to this. If you're out there and you want to partner with us, please do so before we get famous. The prices do go up occasionally. But then I want to start this conversation with these guys. I know we've spoken about this with Deo. We've spoken about this all privately. But what's the one thing that drew you gentlemen to comedy? Let's start with Evans.
Oh, it was just, I just knew I was innately funny. I was blessed, but I was also blessed with African parents who don't put comedy on the menu when it comes to respectable jobs. You know, it's always teacher, doctor, engineer, you know, even politicians come before comedy. And so what happens is, I know I've got something, but not having a proper kind of avenue to pursue that line of passion kind of made it more of a delayed kind of subsidiary practice as a hobby. And so I found it much later on when friends were telling me like, yo man, you should do stand-up. I'm like, what's stand-up? You should do stand-up, you're funny, you should stand up. And then like, you don't have a comedy club to go to, you don't have anywhere else to do it. So at the end of the day, we decided, let's just set it up ourselves, do it ourselves, and we'll work from there. We got a couple of videos back in the days of VHSs.
Yes.
Yeah, VHSs.
Kids watching, a VHS was like the internet in a plastic box, but it only showed one channel. I don't know. Yeah,
it's a very complex kind of respectable technology. And we started off, that's how we started off, but I knew it was there. And that's why for us as Punchline in Africa, it's really important to create those avenues, create those stages like you're doing right now, to allow those who are up and coming at least to have an avenue. Yeah. Even if you convince your parents now, at least you can see, there's a place. Yeah. They're doing things. They're inviting comics who've done an HBO special, guys who've done tours in and across Africa. So you want them to aspire. But without that stage, it's so hard. So I thank the Almighty for that.
I want to skip over Ian for this answer because he comes from a scene that's a bit more established. So I want to go right over and speak to Ndumiso and say, how did you get into this? Why did you get into this?
Funny enough, I also didn't know what stand-up comedy was. This is back 99, 2000. I come from a family, I'm a last born at home. Sister, 2 brothers, me. So you can imagine, as a last born, you never get that freedom of speech or to say anything, actually. It's always like, you're the one, young one, shut up, shut up, shut up. So during those shut up times, I learned that I was an observer. My observation skills, it was just on the mark. And when I moved from home to Cape Town, because I'm from a place called Eastern Cape. I moved from Eastern Cape to Cape Town. I met a friend, who's still my best friend now, Molite Mataba, and he was like, because I was just crack guys up, and then he was like, man, you should try stand-up. I was like, I don't think so. Because to me, people who were funny were masters of ceremonies, the MCs. Yeah, back home, my dad was like the MC where we from weddings to 21st birthdays to funerals to whether you're coming back from the army, he's there to welcome you, So he was that guy. He had icebreakers for days, So one time I remember I was still in high school. He wakes me up. He's like, don't tell your mom I woke you up because it's a school night, So he was like, I need you to see this. There's a comedian called Barry Hilton back home. He's an old man now. And he had these shows that were happening on TV at the Barnyard Theatre. And he's just performing, man. I'm watching this. I'm like, this is awesome, At the same time, I'm thinking, when is this MC going to introduce the next speaker? Because he's been going on, So you do these jokes, and I would remember some of them and tell my friends at school. Yeah, this awesome joke. I just shared it with Eric and Ty yesterday. Yeah, this awesome joke that stayed with me And I think it's what I try to match up to every time I come up with things. So, yeah, this joke about Desmond Tutu was being investigated by the apartheid police back then because he had the same routine every morning. He would wake up, dress up, get ready, get in his car, drive to the nearest telephone booth, and stay there for like a few seconds, and then start his day. Every time, same routine. So the police decided they're gonna tap that phone, record what this guy does there. So really, the next day, he does the same thing. Gets ready, gets in his car, go to the telephone booth, and they record everything, starts his day. They go and play it back, and he got to the phone and said, phone on the wall, who's the greatest bishop of them all? And the phone went, toot, toot, thank you. And that for me was classic. I was like, oh, my word, So I used to tell this joke. This is before I even knew what stand-up was, So fast forward to 2000, 99, I passed my matric, moved to, because I was like, I'm moving away. I just want to be in another city, far from my family. I go study in Cape Town. And as I've said, I met this friend. You need to start comedy, man. You need to start stand-up. I'm like, what is that? He tells me, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Fast forward, they had, every Monday, they had activities where I was studying, whether they're promoting something or anything.
Talent show, that sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, this is during lunch hour.
Yes.
So they had a comedy show, and it was sponsored by a telephone company, a mobile telephone company. So they were giving away a phone, a 3310. All I wanted was the 3310, But still, I didn't know what stand-up was. So we got there, sat in the front. Now, my friend was attending workshops. There was a thing called the Cape Town Comedy Collectives, if I got that right. And they had comedians who are popular now. They're big names now. They were still young back then. So he used to attend those. So he was ready for the moment because they were going to give away this phone. So there are 3 comedians. First guy got on. Second guy got on. Before they brought on the headliner, they were like, we are giving away a phone. Anyone who thinks they are funny, come to the stage. My friend jumps up, does his set, kills it. You have a minute, right? Another guy jumps up, they start booing him, all the students. Start booing this guy. He's off. Then they're like, we need the third person. No one is getting up, man. Now, after the booing, they're like, nah, we're not moving. Now, keep in mind, we were there. We were excited about this. So we got there early and sat on the floor, right? So as the show goes on, it's packing up behind us. We don't see that. So I'm sitting there thinking, I can do this. If my friend can do this, I can do this. I jump up, turn around, it's packed. Students. Now I'm stunned. I'm like, flip. But it's a point of no return, right?
Oh, you can cuss on this podcast, bro.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Fuck. So anyway, so I remember the guy who was hosting that show. He was like, you have 1 minute starting now. But all I heard was that Charlie Brown teacher voice. Grab the mic. I look at him. He's like, and then I started making up stuff. I don't even remember what I was saying. I was talking about cornrows and not being able to close your eyes and a whole lot of stuff, Then I ran out of time. My minute ran up fast. And then he grabs the mic. He's like, sorry, buddy. Your time is up. We're going to vote now. My friend wins the phone. Then I told myself, because this thing became an annual thing, I told myself, when that thing comes back next year, I'll be ready. And I started writing from that moment. That night, I was angry, man. I was like, man, if I was prepared, So I started writing stuff, just ideas. I still don't know what stand-up is, right? Started writing. And time really moved so fast. Like the next day, it was this show. And I was like, let's do it, So we get there, my friend and I, again, we're early. So the students pick up the place. The show starts. Before the headliner comes on, we are giving away a phone. They didn't even finish. I was right in the front. I was already there. They're like, oh, okay. You're going last then. Oh. We need 2 more people. 2 more people, please. 2 more. Guys jumped up. Cool. So they went, did their thing. And I jumped up. And I remember it was during that time when Shrek had just came out, the first one. Yeah. And I said, I went to the movies and I went to go watch Shrek. If you don't know what Shrek is this animated movie, mostly just jumbled up all the fairy tales in one movie, this and this and that. But I have a problem with that movie. Out of all the characters, they gave Eddie Murphy the donkey. All the characters gave Eddie Murphy the donkey. Why does a black man always gotta be an ass? So that was my first joke, and I did the others. Then I win the phone. Then I'm thinking, that's it. I just wanted a phone. MC guy, host guy comes to me, he's like, yo, we have comedy nights, armchair theater at Observatory. Come through, I'll give you 5 minutes. Yeah, come through, I'll give you 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I'm nervous. I'm like, ooh, theater, ooh, comics, people. My friend is like, dude, exactly what you did there, do exactly that. I'm like, okay, cool. I remember going there that Sunday. I had a great time, Then it just started slowly but surely, and then, yeah.
Okay.
And the rest is...
I think my biggest takeaway from that particular story is the phone booth. Now, most of our listeners and viewers do not know what a phone booth is. Think of an iPhone in a big metal box. That's like, I don't know, I think only Shaz in this room knows what a phone booth is. I think only Shaz knows what... But then it's very interesting that Ndumiso Lindi won the mightiest and toughest phone that has ever been made. Like a Nokia 3310.
Yeah. The school uniform.
Deo, I know I've heard this story before, but you tell me how you jumped into this.
Okay. So for me, I've always been a performer, I guess. I'll be one of those kids who would dance, let's say in one of these festivals, religious festivals.
I want our ladies who are listening to understand that he said he's always been a performer. Put a pin on that.
Where's the camera? Yeah, I've always been a performer.
He didn't say a good performer, he just performs, yeah.
So dancing and stuff, I guess that's what started off with me. So when when I got into school and stuff, growing up in school, I was the kid who also got into the drama class. So I started acting. And then little do I know, next thing is when you're watching TV, we had these regular shows and comedians that had been doing it. You would know them, the Kingwendus and Nani. So you would watch that stuff on TV, and then you would also want to be funny. It's like that with artists. If one artist touches you in some way, you want to give that back. I don't know why. So that I had been emulating them, the Kingwendus and stuff. So I did that. I did not know anything about stand-up comedy. That came up later. So I'd seen the Eddie Murphys. I would know those guys, but stand-up
is you never thought you would be.
No, I'd seen them in the sense of movies and stuff.
Not on stand-up.
Not on stand-up. So stand-up came up later on, which was, I guess, when I was in high school. Yes. I visited a friend, and his name was Dominic, and he showed, because I'm funny at school, this is secondary school now, because I went to secondary school, kept on acting and stuff. So when I went to visit him at his folks' place, and he said, yo, you gotta see this, check this out. Plays a performance of Rasopitis. And almost just like you, I'm there, I'm enjoying this, I'm loving this, but I'm like, when is this guy going to start acting? You get what I mean? I mean, like, what is this? And then until the whole show ends, and this guy says, you seen that? I say, I've seen that, you should try that. Now, at the time, I was going through a problem with them ladies and stuff, because, I was emulating King Wendu,
I think we did this when we were doing your episode, but then for our listeners or viewers who do not know who Kigwendu is this super multi-talented Tanzanian icon. But he is funny, because of everything that he does. So he is funny, hilarious, but not sexy.
Yes, to the ladies.
Very important. Like
Yes.
there's a distinction. He is like, I will laugh at him, but I'll not shag him. I think that's you need to remember that.
They need to remember that. So I went like that. This is now you're going through puberty and stuff. You're performing like King Wendu in secondary school. I mean, you now realize it's women. God damn it. We need to get some of these women. So he went on. I was sort of the clown, I guess, because I would bust up. Sometimes I would just bust up performances. The class would be speaking, no teacher. I would just go out, come back in, do like a proper 10, 15.
Yeah.
Tight
10.
Tight 10, just pretending to be a certain teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then now that I say that, I remember I also used to do this. You know how in school electricity, load shedding and stuff, this kind of thing, when it goes off.
Ian, load shedding is something in Africa where the power just goes out for no apparent reason. It's not scheduled. You don't know when it will come back. You don't know if it will come back. Sort of like my dad. But carry on.
And you don't ask for it to be scheduled. How dare you? You are telling the government to what? To tell you when they... Okay. So anyway, when electricity went off, we used to go for night preps. So this is boarding school, right? So night preparations for personal
When you're
studies
studying,
and stuff.
yes, yeah.
So we used to do this a whole week. So when electricity went off, that's a holiday.
Oh, so once the power goes off, there's no backup generator.
Yeah, at the time.
So it means the prep time is done.
Yes.
Okay.
At the time,
Yeah.
during this was back between 2005 to 2008.
I like how Deo is still defending his school. It's like, at the time, now they have a generator.
No,
Like,
I am not happy about that because when I went back to the same school
Yeah.
and they bought the generator, and guess what? We had no more holidays.
no, there you go.
So electricity would go off, and I would usually find myself between students,
Yes.
between my friends.
Yeah.
Now I don't know what I am doing at this point. I am just there telling stories. I had this one bit. Now I call it a bit, but I did not know it was a bit at the time.
Yeah.
So I just created this football match between teachers and non-teaching staff.
Oh, yeah.
And then I would just imitate the
voices,
voices and
yeah.
stuff. And then people would show up to listen to this because I would say things that teachers wouldn't say. I would curse. I would do this always whole experience. So this is O-level now. I go to this friend's place and then he shows me that. So in A-level, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do this more of this King Wendu.
Yeah.
I'm going to start trying this whole
Something
other
that's going to
thing.
get me laid.
So I didn't do much of that in advanced level, high level. I went to university.
Yeah.
Did a bit, just once, I guess. I gathered my friends. We got a room. I played for about an hour, apparently, but I didn't. They told me it was an hour. I couldn't count it because I had so many stories.
Yeah.
And I just cramped them in that. Did that once, and then after that, no comedy until I hear I'm in Dar es Salaam now. I'm running away from home in the sense of like, okay, I gotta be my own man in the sense of I'm trying to learn businesses and stuff. So I'm in Dar es Salaam there, and I'm listening to the radio, and this guy is working with Valou, which was a brand, as an alcohol brand, and they said we have a comedy competition. Yeah, and remember, I am from the countryside, Ifakara and stuff, so I'm new there. So I hear this, I go to one of the events. Turns out it's not even the audition. I came to Kimara. It wasn't an audition. It was the day of the performance. And they told me, you can perform, you got to go through a whole process, but you got to do it in the other, in Bagala or something.
Yes.
So I did that, and then I won his competition.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The prize was 2 million shillings.
Tanzanian shillings, guys, relax.
I was about to ask, like, geez, you won the lotto.
That's like 14 rand. That's like 25 cents. Like, okay, cool.
So meanwhile, I didn't get all the money.
He took some?
Yeah, there was 10,000 shillings was missing from that batch.
10,000 shillings.
Yeah, 10,000 shillings. So it was 1,990,090.
Okay.
10,000 shillings was missing.
That's
So
facilitation fee.
yes.
It's a very small facilitation.
So after that, I went to do my master's as a lawyer.
Yes.
So I did. Okay, there's a thing I skipped there. I did law, and then so after that I went out to do a master's. This was like a scholarship I got to Italy. Went there, didn't do anything there. I know I did the masters, but I didn't do the comedy.
He didn't do any comedy or anyone.
Comedy,
so yes.
Yes, apparently. I'm coming back. So came back, and it was in Italy where I realized, like, okay, yeah, I like law, I like the whole philosophy thing, but this thing is not gonna pan out. I don't like the way the whole scenery thing is set up. So I guess I'll just stick with what is. I think I can make this comedy thing work, because then I was already watching Richard Pryor, I was already watching your Chris Rocks, I was already watching your whatever, man. So many of those. So I decided I'm gonna go back to Tanzania and I'm gonna redo it. Besides, I have this whole trophy from that man. I keep telling him that shit really.
But
for
all
me,
the money is gone.
all the money is gone.
Okay.
But I had this trophy that reminded me that I could do this other thing.
Yeah.
So I went back to that. Thank you very much for that, by the way. I went back to that. Yeah, well, sort of worked my way. There's a whole story around that. But then I started performing professionally, and then fast forward 3 years later, I and other friends started a whole new platform called Watubaki. Yeah, we've been doing it for 2 years, for 3, if not 2 years now, and then there's we also have a show with DSTV.
Yeah.
South Africa's chipping now.
Yeah.
So that show airs weekly. It's the
I love how everyone is just plugging in the thing. We also have a TV show with DSTV, airs weekly from 9:30, DSTV channel 114. Yes.
yeah, he's 160 or 114. Maisha Magic Bongo, Maisha Magic Poa, and guess what? And guess what?
Yeah.
Guess what, man? This is like the first stand-up comedy show that I know of that is paid off by a network. So this is also a milestone in the growth of stand-up.
Yeah.
We applaud you, brother.
Well,
You take
man.
your flowers. Now,
And give him his flowers. Too.
No, he already took the 10,000. He's fine.
You know what's the amazing part about his story
Yeah.
is shortly after I started performing at the Armchair, they had a competition also.
Yeah.
And I won. It was a 3-week thing, and you had to come up with your new 5 minutes every Sunday.
Yes.
And I won the amateur part.
Oh.
And the other guy won the professional guy
professional
won
part.
yeah. And we were supposed to go to London. He's gonna give us the prize money and also
go
fly
to
us to
London,
London
yeah.
and go play gigs. And he just wishy-washy just disappeared.
You know his mistress went to London. That's what you need to know.
It just disappeared.
Wait, before we move forward, Evans, have you done any competitions and won those as well?
No.
Oh, thank God. There's the two of us who have not won any comedy competitions, bro.
I
I'm with you.
haven't won any competition.
Okay.
For me, I just.
You're winning in life.
I just wanna. No. I wanna see the space grow.
Yes.
I want people to have the opportunities that I didn't have. And by doing things like this, the collaboration we have between Punchline Comedy Club Nairobi and Punchline Africa Tanzania, it means that we've got comics who are getting exposed. There are a couple of comics who got on the plane for the first time through comedy.
Yes.
You know, that's going to be a story you got to go with.
Yeah.
You know, there's some who lost their virginity because of comedy.
Yeah.
Because of these things. We have to be, you know, we're there, but let's give them what they didn't experience. Hashtag Deo.
I think one of the most important things is basically, especially here before I go to Ian, is, and I'm looking at my producer, Grace, I think we might make this a 2-part. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I think it's about creating opportunities, because this market is an emerging market for stand-up comedy. Yeah. So now I want to go to someone who's been in a market that's been in existence for almost, I think by the last count, about 74 years.
Right.
Ian Lara grew up in New York City, in Queens.
Right.
And New York City is essentially the hotbed of chlamydia, but also of stand-up comedy. Ian, how did you get into it? The comedy, not the
chlamydia. I was in college. I was studying to go. Well, it started when I was 18. A girlfriend of mine at the time, she took me to see Chris Rock. He filmed "Kill the Messenger," his HBO special.
Oh shit, you were there?
Yeah, he filmed it at the Apollo. I was 18 and I went to see it. That was the first time I saw live stand-up, and I was like, "Oh, this is just really cool." And then fast forward to college, like people told me I should try it, so I just wrote jokes and I went and tried it. And that's pretty much it. I was from New York, and New York, like you said, is the capital. When I found out that New York was the place to be, I was like, cool, I'll try it. And then I went and tried it, and I just fell in love with it.
So where did you first do stand-up in New York?
At Broadway Comedy Club.
Oh.
Yeah. You did an open mic. You pay $5. You go.
Yeah,
and do open mic.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful to see what an established market looks like, because you're like, I wrote some jokes, I went to a comedy club, I did this. When you listen to what Evans is saying, is like, there was nowhere to do this. So I had to make something so that this existed. And then we listen to Ndumiso and he says, there was like a competition that then led to that. But then it was not like there was a rigid structure, but there was still some sort of structure. And then Deo talks and they still know proper structure, but it's some sort of structure because of what people like yourselves have done. But I feel like the only reason you were able to do what you did is because already they existed the art form. So Ian's, like for example, like the New York City and LA and all these places already had that, so that you were able to say, okay, this thing that people do out there, we can also do it here. So the way I got introduced to stand-up comedy was actually, I have an older brother. Shout out to my brother. Like, he's the only family I have. This guy is amazing. But my brother is much older than me. He's almost 10 years older than I am. And what he did is that he had VHS tapes of Def Jam comedy. And I'd go, and my favorite comedian at that point in time was Martin Lawrence. And the way that Martin Lawrence just interacted with the audience, and he'd come in and he'd dance and he'd roast people and all of that. I never thought I would do it, but I knew I enjoyed it. And that's the one space that my brother and I basically sort of connected, because he was, when I was like, at a certain age, he was trying to chase girls, so he didn't want to hang out with me. My mom would make him hang out with me, but I was very good at fixing things. So
you're touching nerves here, man.
yeah. The deal was that I would basically, he'd come in, and if there was something wrong with the VHS steps, like, oh no, the VHS player, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a way your parents could lock it. Do you guys remember this?
Yeah.
They could lock the VHS so you couldn't play it, but I knew how to override it. So, because anytime there was anything in the house, I'd open it up and I'd try and figure it out.
Which VHS is this? Is this the top inserter or
The one.
This is the front one, this way. But what you could do is they basically had a code that you could punch in. So you'd press play, stop, play, pause, and it would lock. It
Wow.
would
That was just
the
before
thing.
DVD.
Yes.
What?
That's what. Yeah. That was just before.
No, you guys were further ahead of us then. You were in 98. One was still in like 92 or something.
Because I figured it out because I opened the entire thing, because I'd watch when my mom would do the code.
Yeah.
And so what happened is when I got home from school early, what I did, my dad had got me like a play set of screwdrivers. But then they were functional. So I opened up the entire thing and I pressed that sequence and I'd see what would lock. So I knew, I started experimenting. So I'd experiment quickly and try and see if it would then unlock. Because I never saw, because they would unlock it later on at night and watch their films. I never saw that. So what would happen is I would come home quickly from school, open up the thing, and then try a sequence and it would still be locked. And then try and put it back together before my mom came home. So eventually I figured out how to basically unlock the sequence. And because of that, my brother was like, yo, listen, I will let you watch some of the things you're not supposed to be watching, not porn, but in return, like, you have to unlock this thing when I want you to unlock this thing. So then I started watching all the previous ones, and he saw that I was into it, and that was one place for us to bond. And what he'd do is that he'd go back and get bootleg VHS tapes, because he was trying to hit on this girl at the store, and he'd get like Richard Pryor stuff. So I saw Eddie Murphy stuff like way back there, but I never thought. But then that was my first interaction with like stand-up comedy, and it was just
Black MacGyver.
no.
Black MacGyver. Were you that kid who messed up every appliance in the house?
Yes,
Like,
yes.
Messed up the kettle, messed up.
Yeah, that was me, because like I didn't have lots of friends, so I stayed at home a lot of times and just messed up with a lot of things. But the thing was, like, my mom was like this, like, you would fear her. So the thing was, like, you ruin something, but know how to put it back to default settings.
Yeah.
Got you.
But also, if you couldn't, what I'd do is I'd ruin it in such a way that when my dad touched it next,
It looks like he's the one who broke
yeah,
it.
he's the one who broke it. So yeah, they had so many fights amongst each other because of that. But that's besides comedy.
You're not gonna apologize. You just put it in the bag.
Let us now like change speeds and talk about reception and perception. Once you've been able to say, okay, this is the thing I want to do, and I'm talking to us on stage as black performers because Ian, Lara, are you third generation?
What? American?
Yeah.
First generation.
First generation American.
Yeah.
So your parents came from
The Dominican Republic.
From the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
So your parents come from the Dominican Republic and they are in America.
Yeah.
And they're like, we are here now. And as a person who grew up away from here, one of the things that you have a lot of pressure on is your parents are always like, you need to make it.
Yeah.
And I know for a lot of us on this stage, maybe your situation is a bit different, but then for people who have African parents, the arts are something that has never been considered viable.
For sure, yeah.
And I was having this conversation with Ty yesterday, one of the comedians, Ty Ngashira, shout out to him. And he was saying, we cannot blame our parents for that because they are trying to escape from something. And it may not be received well, but it comes from a good place. So very quickly, let's have your experiences of your family, your parents, understanding that now you wanted to go into the arts or you are now full-time in stand-up comedy. Let's start this way, just very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yes.
First of all, let me start from the end, which is before my father called me about stand-up, sort of understanding what I'm doing. This was when I did that Salama Na episode 8, which is like 3 weeks ago. This is when...
Wait, this is 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, this
From
is
today?
Yes.
Yeah?
This is when he calls me to be like, okay, I've seen you.
And you've been doing stand-up how long?
I've been doing 5 years now.
Okay.
And I bet you he got a call from someone he respects.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
I see your boy's doing well. That's all it takes.
So if you look at it from my parents' view, you can also understand it. So my father had, all my parents all had the suspicion
Yes.
that this one,
I like how we're describing it like there's suspicion.
there's a suspicion with this one.
The way Kinuthia says it. Wakona ka urafiki.
So the suspicion ya kwa Mungu kwanza hesabu anafeli. Yani yuko tu. Unajua Deo anakuwaga na vitu anavyotaka yeye niende achekeshe huko, which is like he's not into math or anything. His thing is just
Make
in a way.
people laugh, yeah.
So I guess they decided that I was going to be proper, I guess. Anyway, it really stressed them out, I guess. Anyway, so I go to secondary school. I finished primary school, go to secondary school, and finally I am filling out my applications for universities, and my father was next to me and stuff. And he's the one who told me, I was going to go for mass communication and stuff.
Yeah.
And he was like, why don't you do law?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this law. In fact, I went to law school hating law. So, okay, let's disprove this shit. Anyway, so I do that law. And my father is like, okay, he's done law. And then I call him, I tell him, I have a scholarship to go to Italy. All you have to do is pay for the plane.
Yes.
And then the fuel. Okay.
Did he still complain?
No, so it's going good.
Yeah.
It's finally going good.
he was like, there is nothing here. So like you were surprising him. He was like, thank God.
Yeah.
Okay, he's going good. He's okay. And then I get to Italy. I do that. I come back. When I get here, it's like, I did a law thing for a very short time, like probably 7 months or something. And
the law thing is you practicing law, not breaking the law. You know, when you say I did a law thing.
Yeah. Now that you say that, it's actually very shady because I was working as a lawyer for a cryptocurrency company.
Okay.
Shady.
Man, your story is like yesterday.
Yes.
You know, when you listen to comics telling a story, they're like, it happened back then.
No,
this guy's story is like
Like
yesterday.
Ndumiso is sitting here and he's like, what is cryptocurrency?
Jeez.
So I did that anyway. So he's waiting for me to do law school and
Yeah.
stuff. And this is when, after just doing 3 months of stand-up, I quit this
Yeah.
and do stand-up
Focused.
full time
Yeah.
till today.
So what was that reaction?
So he has sent me a couple of messages.
Yes.
And
And it's funny, he's still sending this.
Strongly worded messages, I think is the one.
yo, there is one. If I could read it to you, I
Do
don't have
you
my.
know you're in trouble when you get a message from your parents, but it says, "Dear sir."
Yes, I remember when he sent it to me. You know, I don't know how many years now. 2, guess 3, maybe. He sent me one. It was like it started with one of those things like, unajua, I was sitting drinking tea with your mother. And then I really thought about your future. Yes. You know, there's a page after that, yeah. And I also got one of them, but this one wasn't like this was a religious thing, not like that. So he's learning, and I can really understand because they come from an industrial age kind of thinking.
But your father is a doctor, isn't he?
My father is a medical doctor. Yes.
Okay, so the pressure is on.
So the pressure is on, but now I guess he's found out to realize like this guy's got his own thing. But it's not easy at all.
Ian, how was the reaction once your parents learned that because you also studied law?
Yeah, I was pre-law.
You're pre-law.
Yes.
My undergrad was law. I got an undergrad degree, but I didn't go to law school.
You didn't go to law school?
No.
Okay.
No.
So how was it when your parents found out?
My dad, he's a professor. So at the beginning, he just thought it was kind of like a hobby. So he was just like a hobby until I go to law school.
Yeah.
And like after a couple years when I didn't go, he started to ask me like, "Are you gonna go to law school?" And I knew like he wasn't happy about it, but he tried to be as supportive. But he wasn't like I knew that it was bothering him.
Like that's the privilege of like having American parents.
Well, my dad's not American.
Oh, okay, fine. Having parents who have lived in America.
No, I mean it was no privilege. Like it wasn't.
No, I'm not talking about the privilege.
No,
Like
I know. I'm saying
understanding.
like the same thing your parents felt is the same thing. Like I took my dad and my mom went to see me the first time I did the Tonight Show, which
this is recent though.
No, the first time was like 5 years ago. The first time was like 4 years ago.
Everyone relax. We have a celebrity in the house. You hear that? 5 years ago, Tonight Show.
No, it was in 2019. It was 4 years ago.
Okay.
4 years ago. I took him and my mom went, and that was the first time he saw me do stand-up. I had been doing it for like 7-8 years already.
Oh, wow.
And he saw me on the Tonight Show. It was like the biggest thing. And I remember like a week later, we had a conversation, and he was asking me, have I ever thought about going to refrigeration school? Like...
After that,
Not even law school now.
No.
Now he's just like
learning a trade, like learning how to fix refrigerators.
Wow.
So yeah, it was no like up until like recently, it was no like you're a comedian, it's okay. Like he was just pretending. Like we still would have these conversations. But he was like, you're not gonna make a living out of this.
What I do want to know is that conversation still open? It means like if this comedy thing for some reason tanks. Do you think he would show up and tell you what about that refrigeration school?
I mean, I think now, I mean, he since then he saw me like do
on
the
TV,
Tonight Show again, the Comedy Central, the HBO special. Like so now he understands. Like I think we like the first time when we were out to eat and like the waiter knew who I was, and he was like, "Oh, all right." So I guess so now he's like, I mean, I'm in Africa for comedy, so he understands.
So that's exactly what Evans was saying, whereby the call that Deo's dad got from someone else is the waiter who was like, "Oh shit, it's Ian Lara." Your dad was like, "Validation, okay, cool, yeah. He can
How do you know my son?
Yeah. Also, I did shows in the Dominican Republic, which is where he was born. I did shows in English. We sold out shows in English in the Dominican Republic.
And
so I think he was like, we sold out 2 shows.
Your relatives were like, "Yo, your son is big out here," and he was like, "Okay, cool." Now,
Now, I think so. Now I think he gets.
Me, I'm not over that. Me, I still can get a call. Because I haven't given them a grand sign. And
going through the process.
I'm still going through that.
Deo just became Kenyan because you're like, "Me-I." That's Ty's joke. That's Ty's joke. I don't want to take that. But that's the stamp of Kenyan. Don't worry, sir. You don't have to speak English anymore. We're good.
Is that a Kenyan thing? I saw it on like a refrigerator magnet. I was like, this isn't proper grammar. But
it's a Kenyan thing.
Oh, all right, cool. I thought they made a mistake. I was like,
Is this from here?
Me-I. I saw it at the park. It said, "Me-I love Nairobi." Me-I love Nairobi. I'm like,
you guys say X.
Yeah.
Let me ask a friend.
Let me ask a friend.
What? Let me ask a friend.
yeah.
Evans, what was your reception?
So for me, it was a perceived reception.
Okay.
I was quite fortunate. I spent a lot of time in England when I was young.
Yeah.
So I grew up there. Swahili was like a second language. First language is English. And in my mind, I couldn't figure out that conversation happening. You know, you play it in your head.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, Dad, I was thinking. And then it always ends up in a beating. Because, you know, if you're an African in England, you're in England until you're gay. And then from then on, welcome to the United Republic of Tanzania.
Yeah.
And so that conversation, and you know, my dad is like a very conservative guy.
Yeah.
He's not the kind of guy you like, so I was thinking, you know, real personality conversations. It's more functional. You ate, or your report card like, it's done. And so
a real African dad, yes.
Yeah. And then if you mess around, very painful. Even in England, even with childcare services.
No, especially with childcare services, because he wants to scare you so that you don't call them.
My late brother once said, "I'm gonna call protection because call them." I know the number, call them. It's crazy, but anyway. So for me, I find that it was all in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
My parents have been very supportive if you can prove your case.
Yes.
Yeah, same.
But the whole thing of you have to have a culture of communicating how you feel.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, you'll have this conversation on your own or with peers or maybe with siblings.
Yeah.
And so that's what I find is really important in when people are growing up right now, to get that communication at par.
And
Like,
conversation going.
here's how I feel about this. What do you think?
Yeah.
If you don't have that, you'll always be having these imaginary conversations. And so, fast forward many years later, and I went back to Tanzania, and it was one of those life-changing scenarios. For me, I'll never forget, because I was going to a really good school in England, and 6 months later, I was going to a school in Tanzania, government school. And it wasn't even a good government school.
You know it's bad when it's a government school that's not a good government school. Because government is already bad. So a bad government school is...
Yeah, I didn't call it bad government schools. Like, a guy who came through is my friend, and we opened up a company together. And he said, he came from a government school. He goes, I've been to government school. Yeah, but this is terrible. And so I was like, you've been to government school? And this is me 6 months later.
Yeah.
And I'm discovering so many things. Like, I find that schools are survival courses.
Yes.
For Africans. They're not really like a learning institution for about academic. It's
Yeah.
about learning life.
Okay.
If you want to, because something called top layer, don't you know top layer? Top layer?
No.
That's the, you guys know top layer. Yeah, survival. These are survivors. Top layer is the amount of fat on beans, because beans are like the traditional dish. You have beans every day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I saw that. I saw
those
those
are
beans
beans.
for breakfast. I'm like, this is,
yeah, no, those are baked beans.
Those are
Yeah,
baked
baked
beans.
Those are like
That's the fancy
those are
beans.
VVIP
Yeah.
beans.
oh, all right.
Yeah.
Those are beans that went to private school.
We have the beans with like no salt and the very minimal amount of
How
oil.
thick are these beans?
All our
Basically,
schools are
You
Mexican.
can use that same top layer of cooking oil
Yeah.
and scoop it and then go and cook something you like chicken, onion. That's what it is. So it's about stealing it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a thing. That's why you don't get it. It wasn't a thing. Where I was from, we had 4 kinds of eggs in the morning. 4 different kinds. Just choose. There's boiled egg, fried egg, there's poached egg. I never had those, right? Poached eggs. And then there's like fried egg, whatever. And you get Tanzania, there's no egg, there's no bread. It's just
Beans.
Uji is like porridge. Porridge, like the worst kind of porridge is no sugar.
It's not even porridge. It's gruel.
Yeah.
It's gruel, because porridge, it's basically you can put oats in it and everything.
Yeah. No sugar. And there was always these tiers, you know, to get to VVIP. So you have sugar is like, oh, you're lucky, you got sugar. Yeah. And then it's like blue band, right? Yeah. Luxury. And then there's like mandazi.
Peanut
And
butter.
then there's coffee so you don't fall asleep. There's like all these things you can add to make it more, but you have to have more money. And so I learned to survive. For me, I'm a survivor.
Yeah.
I learned to survive, and I
You don't
realized
have
that.
to tell us that. I know. We see you. I saw him when
So
we went
my-
to the game drive.
Yeah.
We could have left him there with the lions. It was-
And he would have survived.
Yeah, go ahead, leave me here. It's fine. I will find you right. 5 minutes.
Taking off his shot,
So my
chasing
parents,
cheaters.
They saw that I can survive. They saw that
Yeah.
I'm,
You have the
I'm-
instinct,
I'm
yeah.
very responsible, and so they just let me do what I thought I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And long story short is that after my A levels, and apparently it was a terrible results, and I said, go to your auntie. You are very resourceful, and I ended up selling sausages from Kenya.
From Farmer's Choice.
From
Here's the
Farmer's
funny
Choice.
thing is that the chairperson of Farmer's Choice is a friend of ours, like my wife and I. And we were talking to him and I was telling him, oh, there's a gentleman from Tanzania who used to... And he remembered Evans.
Wow.
He remembered Evans from way back. This is like early 2000s.
Yeah, late 90s. Yeah. So I've sold tons and tons of sausages. As in, I used to be called Mr. Sausage.
That's my nickname too.
For the right reasons. Yeah.
So
Not Mr. Chipolata. That's different.
So I was marketing pharmaceutical products, and I just grew, and everything grew from there. And I learned about events. I learned more about myself in terms of my abilities to, promote and give proper, what's the word? Just magnify someone's hustle.
Yes.
And I learned a lot about myself in that time. And I didn't know how to speak in front of a microphone.
Yeah.
That's why everyone says, "Oh, how do you do what you do?" I'm like, no. I was the most afraid person when it comes to microphone. I didn't know how to use the microphone.
Yeah.
I was so afraid, but over a period of time, you keep on doing something. If you really believe it and you have a support system around you, you guys have workshops now.
Yeah.
We had no workshops. But if you have the right people around you, you just get that confidence slowly.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I realized it was all in my head.
Yeah.
It was all that because we didn't have a rapport of having a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, some people have like every Sunday we meet and we have this
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
Those are so important in families. So that at least someone can tell you how they feel about certain something, as opposed to just battling up with the head and then ending up with mental health issues.
Yeah.
And so by the time I got like Salamana, an interview by a very popular interviewer, and my mom would say, "Oh, I saw you there, and I thought it's really nice."
Yeah.
You know, they see me maybe with a picture of a president or ex-president. But now I'm emceeing, I'm presenting. And so that's the validation right there.
Yes.
That he's moving. You want to chill with the big boys, Luko.
But even you have such a high profile because you've emceed president gigs, you've emceed official gigs, you do lots of weddings, you do lots of like every time I'm in Dar es Salaam. Like the fact that you actually make time to hang out with me is always impressive because you're like, oh, I have this corporate event I'm doing. Oh, we are launching this with this and the other bank. Oh, I'm emceeing this particular wedding. I'm doing stand-up on this. So I feel like because you're so versatile, your parents must be like, yeah, this guy's...
Yeah, fingers in many pies.
Yes.
Yeah, but not politician.
Okay.
Can I say one thing about, because I get this question so much, like from the young comics who ask me, like, what about like when their parents don't support them? Especially if you come from like immigrant parents or traditional African, they're all the same. I will say, like, it's not your parents' job to support you on this wild dream of stand-up that you want to do.
Wow, that's very profound.
It's not their job. It's your job to prove to them that you can do it. Your parents want what's best for you. When they tell you to be a lawyer, doctor, they're not saying that out of hatred or you're their kid, they want what's best for you.
Yeah.
So when they tell you not to do stand-up, it's because they know this is not an easy job at all. Most people fail at it.
Yeah.
Like, you're choosing to embark on this. Is your job to get them on board. They don't have to, so why would they support you? They don't know. Is there a stand-up comedian in your family that you could be like, oh, look at Uncle Mike. I'm going to be like Uncle Mike. No, they don't know any successful stand-up comedian.
Yeah, that's because Uncle Mike is an alcoholic. So yeah, like,
right. They don't know that. So it's your job to prove it to them. You gotta, so at the beginning, I knew that. Like, my parents they were like, what are you doing? They wanted better for me. It was my job to prove to them and get them on board. So take that as your challenge. If your parents tell you they don't like it, they're not saying that they want what's best for you. It's just,
Pressure makes diamonds anyway.
And now we go to Ndumiso Lindi.
Yeah.
How was that? Because your dad was very high profile.
Damn.
Your dad was very high profile.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the pressure was already there.
It was. Funny enough, for me, it was very important to get that approval from my dad.
Oh.
Because, and also what I said earlier, for being a last-born and not having that freedom to say anything or to talk or to whatever, and then you just choose your way as you grow.
Yeah.
You know, especially after matric, because I decided I'm gonna do everything he asked me to do, and then I'm just gonna break away.
Yeah.
So I passed my matric good, did my varsity good, graduated, studying graphic design, and then I got my work experience.
Yes.
You know, like 4 to 5 years.
For those guys who do not know what matrices are, those are basically your high schools. So you do your A-level sort of thing in South Africa. Yeah. Just,
You know,
I see a lot of like he was in the Matrix. I didn't see him. I need to go and rewatch that shit.
I was Neo.
You were Morpheus, maybe.
So yeah, matric,
Graduated uni.
graduated, work experience, 4 to 5 years. And then I called him one day. So I started comedy while I was still studying in varsity. Then I called my dad, I think in my 4th year, 5th year. I was like, hey man, because look, this thing is a calling, whether however you want to see it.
Yeah.
And when a calling comes through, man, it chows you. The more you ignore it or you treat it like a side chick,
Yeah.
it just keeps bothering you. Like, I want you here, you know? I don't know why you side check.
I see a lot of people relating with the side check. John Master, I see your face.
So, even at work, I wasn't really happy, but I was enjoying creating and designing and all that kind of stuff. Then I called my dad one day. I was like, hey man, this is the thing, it's bubbling up and it's looking good. I'm traveling and I do this, I do that with it. But there's also work. Look, I've done everything you've asked me to do. And I've done it well. I'm gonna take some time off work and just focus on this thing. And then you kind of wait for, what the hell? What's wrong with you? Kind of thing. But he was calm. He was like, oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey man, you are a man now.
Nice.
You know, literally like
Yeah.
that. You are a man now. You live your
So
life.
do your thing, yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, you're right. You did everything, you know? And then he was like, I don't know this comedy thing as much as I didn't know when you said to us, you want to study graphic design. Because when I moved from home
Eastern
to
Cape,
go
yeah.
study in Cape Town, I also didn't know what I was going to study. And then my brother's flatmate, he was like, oh no, my brother studied retail management. So he was like, study retail management. Then I went and
applied for that.
Applied for retail. Then when I was in retail, I was like,
No.
fuck this thing. This is
This
boring, you know?
This is very boring.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
You know, I've never studied accounting before. You know? Man, I hated
this,
it. You
yeah.
know? But there was one subject. It was communication. Oh, I killed communication. I looked for communication and computer.
Done.
Killed it, right? Up to a point, I didn't have cash for presentations and communication, for printing or booking, whatever. When we did presentations.
Yeah.
So I drew everything.
Oh,
Yeah, everything. I'll just buy paper, crayons, or markers or whatever.
Yeah, colored
and I
pencils.
drew everything, paste it up, killer presentation.
Nice.
Then my lecturer for communication was like, Mr. Lindi, can you please stay behind? Everyone leaves. She's like, why are you here? I'm like, excuse me. It's like, you don't belong here. Do you see that faculty that design?
Yeah.
Go look for Mr. I just forgot the guy's name now. Go look for Mr. So-and-so. Tell him I sent him. Tell him to just show you around design.
Yes,
and
yeah.
you will decide what
If you want to be here or you want to be, yeah.
So, okay. Literally, I even didn't go to the next lecture.
Yeah.
Went
You went to
straight.
design.
Yeah, went straight there and spoke to him. He's like, oh, so okay, cool. Okay. He's like, come, for you. So we started, because it was floors. So top floor was graphic design. Second floor was textile and fashion. And then first floor was industrial and just forgot the other stuff now. So we took it, you just went there. And then I was like, let's go back up.
Yeah.
And then we went back to graphic design. And he was like, okay, this is how you apply this and this and this and that. And I applied. And again, that was my first call to my dad.
Yeah.
It's like, look, that retail thing, it's not working out.
Graphic design.
Yeah. And then he was like, okay, so what is graphic design? So I tried to explain, but
It's not.
he don't know.
Yeah.
To him, graphics is pie charts and,
Yeah.
you know. So then he was like, okay. I feel like I had it easy compared to my other siblings.
Yes.
Because I think as parents, you kind of make your mistakes as you go.
With those, yeah.
So by the time you get to the last bond, you're like,
Okay.
I want to let this one.
I have a friend
You've
who
learned
has
your
a couple of
lesson.
kids, and he said the more kids you have, the more you give up. So at the end, like the last kid can come to you and say, I have decided terrorism. And you're like, okay, fine. Fine, do what you want. Do what you want.
Yeah,
You know?
man.
Yeah.
And also,
I'm the firstborn, so
Oh, yeah.
it doesn't look good.
Yeah, they're gonna be
for
hard
me.
on
Yeah,
you.
it's gonna be hard.
Yo, that's firstborn.
Yeah.
That's slavery phase. that's shambox and whips. What are you doing? My oldest, my sister is the first one.
Yeah.
My sister and my older brother. Oh man, that was rough.
here's what I'm going to say, and this is going to surprise you, Ndumiso. The very first time I saw you was on TV, and it was was it a Coca-Cola ad? It was either Coca-Cola or a pizza ad.
Pizza ad.
It was a pizza ad. You had a red top and you had dreadlocks. Yes.
No, it was KFC ad.
KFC ad, yo! And this is way back.
Yeah, way
That's
back,
the very first time I ever saw you.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, I've seen, like, later on when you got into stand-up, like once I stumbled upon your stand-up, I was like, I've seen this dude before. I have seen this dude before. Because you opened the door and you took, like, there was something. That's very crazy. I just remember that.
I think for my dad also, he kind of saw those small things.
Yeah.
And
so being
because in high school I was a cheerleader.
Yeah.
That's why for me.
Excuse me.
Let me explain. I went to a boys' school. And you know
that's not better.
Helping. It's
no, hold up.
It's not
Get me
helping.
out. We didn't have pom-poms and stuff. Hey, give me a you. Give me a... No. Boys' school with us, it's a rugby school, right? It's you rock and roll, man. You're the second best thing after the head boy. You're a cheerleader.
You know, this is not going well for you, Ndumiso.
I promise you.
It's like, so there's a boys' school, it's a rugby thing, and then they're like, Ndumiso, you can't play rugby, but we have some pom-poms for you if you...
No, you had to play rugby. It's either you play rugby or you play hockey.
So it goes.
What did you do?
It goes head boy.
Chair. He was.
And then it goes what?
No.
Cheerleader?
No.
Is that what you're telling us?
Hear me out.
The rank.
The normal thing is head boy, deputy head boy, and then
Can a
prefect.
South African, like,
Right?
listener,
No,
like,
no.
viewer...
You guys are not trying to listen to me. Hear me out. Hear me out. Right? So for the cheerleader is voted by metrics. So when you're about to, in fact, when you start the year in metric, so people will vote who's the guy. I guess I was the guy. Right? There was two of us. It was. In fact, they didn't vote for me.
You rigged yourself in.
Yeah, they voted for this white guy called Lesler. And then when the first team was about to go tour overseas, Lesler went up, and there was no black guy with him there.
And they were like, this is not good for
funny
optics.
enough, because there were always those tensions, but at the same time we were cool. Right? So most of the white guys were sitting this side, most of us as black people were sitting this side. And then I said to my guys, yo, start clapping and saying, Dura. That's my nickname, right? Saying Dura. And everyone just jumped on it. They knew what I was doing. Then the school is like, what's going on? And I just walked up the aisle and got on stage and I started shouting and doing all the walk rides and stuff. And then I stayed.
Oh, it's the walk,
It's
like
terminology.
it's the terminology. It's not cheerleader. Don't call it that, bro.
Yeah, you're still a cheerleader. You're still the school cheerleader.
It's the branding, bro. You're in branding. You're in graphic. Like, brand it better. Be like, I was leading the walk rise.
Walk rise.
That's why your dad let you do graphics.
He was like, oh, thank God. Thank God.
It's better than cheerleading. You do.
I think my personal experience with basically comedy and taking a risk was a bit different. So by the time I was getting into stand-up comedy, my parents were already dead. So I was like, oh, thank God. No, and I say that because initially when I was in uni, I was studying to be a doctor. And I'd done about 3 years. And then I went through like a very tragic event in my life at that particular time. I took a gap year. I went away, and when I came back, I told my favorite professor, "Is like, I don't want to do medicine anymore." And she looked at me and she said, "There's something that you might want to explore that's very different, but you already have all the grades that you need for it, so you wouldn't need to start from nothing. What you do is that you just transfer your grades." And she said, "Have you ever heard of particle physics?" And I was like, yeah, I've heard of particle physics. And she's like, why don't you, because you seem very interested, why don't you give that a try? Because at that point in time, I was like, I don't know exactly what I want to do. I might have just dropped out and quit. So I went into it and it was amazing. But by that time, my dad was already dead. But then the most disappointed person, and she never forgave me, was my mother. Because I think she'd already started telling all her friends and everything, my son's a doctor. My son's a doctor. Because my brother had initially basically gone to uni to study medicine, but he'd also just basically said, I don't want to do this. So my brother went ahead and he studied marketing and retail shit, like a lot of that stuff. But so for me, my mother, even when she never forgave me for that. So I can only imagine when she'd go to her friends and say, oh, he was a particle physicist, but now he's telling jokes. He's a jester. Like, you could see that every time she looked at me, I remember we used to have conversations and then she'd be like, why would you do this to me? And I'm like, bitch, you can go back to school and become a doctor. I didn't say that.
You were the punchline, though.
In your head.
Yeah, in my head. Like,
Otherwise, this here
no, this would not
have
happen.
existed anyway.